On the Paper Talk today, we'll be giving you a takeover update. We'll find out what the latest movement is. Is it going to be Sheikh Jassim? Is it going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe? We'll also be looking at transfer targets. How has the Takeover Saga affected Erik ten Hag's ability to do transfers? And has it left him fuming? Let's find out. Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and the weather's mild. You probably don't need your parka today. Loads of stories to get through, so we'll crack on. We'll give you an update on the Takeover Saga, because let's face facts, it is a saga right now. Also, some transfer updates to give you as well, although unfortunately, as of yet, United still haven't signed anyone or look like signing anyone just yet, and we do need to get a bit of a wiggle on, because players are already making deals, clubs are already making deals elsewhere, but it all ties in with the Takeover Saga, sorry. So we'll get into all that stuff as well. I'm going to start with some outgoings or potential outgoing. Donny Van De Beek. Yes, do you remember Donny Van De Beek? Little fella, blonde hair, used to play at Ajax. Well, it looks like he could be willing or is willing to leave Manchester United. I mean, it's not a great surprise, that, is it, that his future probably doesn't like the club. If you look at what's happened with Donny Van De Beek, it's been a bit of a weird one ever since he arrived. He came in for 35 million quid, I think rising to 40 million, which it probably didn't because he's barely played. And everyone looks at that. It was a bit of a surprise signing. There was no real rumours in the days and the weeks leading up to the signing. So you looked at it and thought, okay, makes sense. Did really well at Ajax, won the title, got to the Champions League semi-finals, of course, was a Ballon d'Or nominee, was on that initial shortlist for the Ballon d'Or back in the day. So you look at it and go, yeah, talented midfielder, could do well. Didn't really get much of an opportunity under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, did he? I think, did he score on his Premier League debut? And I think he scored the last goal under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, last Premier League goal under Solskjaer. But he didn't really get much of a chance, and it's like Ole didn't fancy him. Ralf Rangnick, again, went out on loan. Was at Everton, I think he was there for 16 games, but missed half of them through injury, comes back, then you think, okay, now he's got Erik ten Hag as his manager, the manager he had at Ajax. It looks like that would be a match made in heaven. But gets the odd start, or the odd game, I should say, here and there, then picks up that injury, doesn't he? I think, was it against Bournemouth, if memory serves, Old Trafford, and hasn't featured since because he's been injured. Now, you look at it and you go, what seemed like a bargain for 35 million quid actually hasn't been much of a bargain, because I think he's played about 34 Premier League games. So you're basically paying more than £1 million for every Premier League game, which, unless you're scoring a hat-trick every game, isn't really worth it, is it? So I know it's not necessarily his fault, because he's had injuries and managers who didn't fancy him, but it hasn't worked out. And now there's reports and rumours that he does want to move. I think Gimme Sport have had it. We saw it a couple of weeks ago from Romano was tweeting about it as well. So it's obvious that the kid wants to move on, and it's probably best for everyone concerned that he does. There is talk of Ajax being interested in him, and I think Gimme Sport was saying that maybe he could get 25 million for him. I don't see that happening. I'll be very surprised if he got anything remotely close to 25 million quid for Donny Van De Beek. I'm not saying he's not a talented player, because he is, but he hasn't really done anything since he's been at Manchester United. We can't pretend that he's had a great 2 years, because he hasn't. Has it been 2 years? I think it has. So I'd be surprised if he got 25 million. Maybe he could. He's still relatively young. He's still a very talented lad. He's just had a bit of bad luck with injuries, and maybe his form's not been what it should have been. So you could probably get some money for him, but I'd be surprised if it was 25 million. But as always, we'll keep you posted on that one. Another potential outgoing is Victor Lindelof. Frankfurt, it seems, are interested in him. Football Insider going with this one, saying that Frankfurt are looking at Victor Lindelof. I think he's got another year left on his deal, with the possible of a year extension. But I don't know if that's going to happen, if him going to Frankfurt or anywhere, because it seems that he's impressed Erik ten Hag with his performances at the back end of last season. He came in, didn't he, when the injuries started piling up. We were missing Lisandro Martinez. Varane missed some games as well. Lindelof came in and did a very good job. And I think Lindelof does do a good job for Manchester United. I think he's a bit unfortunate that he seems to get tarred with the same brush that Harry Maguire gets tarred with. People look at Harry Maguire and say, it's not worked out for him, he needs to move on. And sometimes Victor Lindelof gets thrown into that category as well. It's a little bit like McFred, where you say McTominay and Fred are always sort of lumped together, and you might argue that actually Fred does a better job for Manchester United than McTominay does, or maybe you think it's the other way around. But I do feel that sometimes Victor Lindelof does get unfairly treated by certain sections of the fan base, not all. And I think he's a decent defender. I think as a third or fourth choice centre back, I think he's good enough. You may disagree. Get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Donny Van De Beek. Do you think he should move on? Do you think we'll get anywhere near 25 million quid for him? And what do you make of Victor Lindelof? Should we be taking the money from Eintracht Frankfurt, if indeed it is on the table, or should we be keeping hold of him? Now, in terms of incomings, it looks like Erik ten Hag is losing his rag with what is going on with the takeover and the fact that it is scuppering our transfer plans. There's a couple of stories in the papers this morning. I've seen it in the Express. I think the Mirror have got it. I think the Sun have got it as well. Don't buy the Sun. It says here that Manchester United, I'm reading this from the Express, Manchester United takeover saga may cost Erik ten Hag 5 signings as boss left. Raging. Manchester United transfer plans are being disrupted by the long delays to their takeover. So it says here that Erik ten Hag is fuming because he can't get the transfers done he wants to get done. Now, Declan Rice is a player that he admired. That ain't happening. Looks like it's not going to happen because we don't know what the funds we've got, transfer budget we've got, and he's going to cost a lot of money. Kim Min-jae, which looked like a bit of a tap-in, he could be got to Bayern Munich now because Manchester United, again, don't know if we're going to have the funds in place for when his release clause is activated on the 1st of July. Harry Kane, that ain't happening, so forget about that one because it seems that Spurs are playing hardball and we don't have the money to play hardball with anyone at the minute. Then there's also Victor Osimhen was another signing, another transfer signing that looked like it could be on the horizon, but Napoli want big money for him and we haven't got big money because at the moment it's like we're on a sell to buy scheme. We've got to sell players to bring them in, and let's face facts, we ain't going to sell a load of players to fund a bid for Victor Osimhen anytime soon. Even Moses Caicedo, who's been linked with the club as well, again, doesn't look like that one's going to happen. Then you've got the goalkeeper scenario. What's going to happen there? Was rumours that we've been linked with Jordan Pickford, although Onana looked like, for the kid from Inter, looked like he could have been a transfer target. But again, what is our budget? What is going on? Mason Mount, which seemed like an easy one to get done. He's got 1 year left on his contract. United want him. He wants to come to Manchester United. However, United have put a £40 million bid in that was rejected by Chelsea. Chelsea wanting 70 million. United willing to go to about 50 million, which for me is right anyway. Forget about whether you've got the budget or not. I don't think anything over 50 million for Mason Mount when he's got a year left on his contract and he hasn't had a great season for Chelsea makes much sense. But again, there's all confusion because we don't know how much of a transfer budget we've got, which is leaving Erik ten Hag raging. Another player we've been linked with as well is Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace is Eberechi is Eze. Yeah. Eze, how do you say it? I should know, I've seen him play. Anyway, you know who I mean, the kid from Crystal Palace. Been linked with him. Apparently he's an alternative to Mason Mount, but that doesn't make much sense to me. Because I think if you can't get Mason Mount, and the rumours are that we're going to go for Eze because he's going to be cheaper, I don't know if he will. He's just got into the England squad. He was called up provisionally in 2020, but he got an injury just as he was getting called up, so he couldn't go. He's been put back into the England squad now, or called up to the England squad. He's had a very good season, I think 10 goals and 4 assists. This is a good young player. I don't think he's going to cost you less than 50 million, to be honest with you. And Palace don't exactly give players away. You remember when we wanted Aaron Wan-Bissaka? They got the money they wanted for him. So I doubt that's going to have changed now. It's one to keep an eye out, though. I think the Metro are reporting it, so we'll see what's happening with that one. But yeah, as a cheaper alternative to Mason Mount, I'm not so sure that he actually is a cheaper alternative. I think he's going to cost you roughly the same as what Mason Mount would cost. Now, in terms of the the takeover saga, it is still rumbling on. We've heard the rumours that apparently Sheikh Jassim is negotiating with the Glazers to have this exclusivity, so he will become the only preferred bidder and the only one who's involved in the negotiations. That was reported last week by Reuters. As of yet, there's been no movement there. We know it's sort of scuppering Erik ten Hag's transfer plans and leaving him really frustrated. So we'll have to see what happens. If there is any movement, I think the stock market price has plateaued. That's been reported. There's not been any more spikes as of yet in the stock market, but we'll wait and see what happens there. Does that indicate something is going to go on? As always, we will keep you posted if anything does happen. Just one final one before I wrap up as well. Luke Shaw has been, like, Agent Luke Shaw, as we call him. He's been giving our potential transfer targets a tour of Carrington. And he showed Harry Kane and Declan Rice round Carrington, and it was all on Instagram, and there was a bit of bit of media frenzy. He was saying, oh, is he doing a bit of poaching here? Are we going to be bringing those players in? Well, it's not going to happen, is it, really? I think he admitted, so it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. He said, he was asked about it, he said, I was half joking, it was a bit of both, but if it was down to me, I would take them in a heartbeat. Hopefully they like it and can get used to it. he joked. So there, he's been speaking there to the press ahead of the England game, and he said it was a bit of kidology, but unfortunately, the days of us just going out and buying Tottenham's best strikers seem to be long gone. But who knows, maybe we'll get taken over this week and we'll have loads of money to spend and we'll go turbo in the transfer window. Anyway, get involved in the chat in the comments. Don't forget, if you've not done already, to hit like, share and subscribe. Back later on with the Paddock podcast. I've been Jay Motti outside a pretty warm Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.